Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today I'm coming to you with the books that I read in the first half of December. I realize this is super late, but I lost my voice for a straight week, basically, and could not make this video. So unfortunately, it is just late, and my voice isn't even entirely 100% back. It still sounds like absolute bollocks, and I'm not happy about it, but that's okay. So I'm literally filming this on December 20th instead of, closer to the 15th, which is what I typically do, but I still only read 5 books, so this is still the same, pretty much the same number of books that I would have read had I filmed this earlier anyway. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get right into the books. So the first one that I read is Illusion by Paula Volsky. I was not as into this book as I could have been. I felt like there were some parts that were really good and really gripping, but the vast majority of the book I was kind of like, okay, and so while I liked it, it didn't do anything for me to blow me away, and it was just kind of all right. I felt like the pacing, it just had a really big pacing problem. It was just all slow, blah, and people talking, and then suddenly something crazy would happen and all that. So I was just not really getting into it, and I'm bummed about that. The Sapling Cage by Margaret Killjoy. This is about a trans girl who lives in a fantasy world where only women can be witches, and so she has to switch places with her friend and try to hide the fact that she appears as a boy, and all of that, and all kinds of conflicts are happening with the witches, but also there's conflict internally with our main character as she kind of grapples with what it means to be a woman, and ultimately finds out that it's that she wants to be treated as a woman. She doesn't have to have a woman's body and all of that, and it's a lot of stuff going on, and this was so good, and I really liked it. The only thing is the world building was very, very light. It was so bare bones because it was, it wasn't really needed necessarily to have more world building than that, but I still would have liked more than there was. And then also the magic system is practically non-existent. Our main character still has no magical abilities pretty much at all by the end of the book, because she's there to learn the magic and all of that, and one of the big lessons here is, one that I, being a pagan person, have had thrust onto me many, many times, is to do whatever you can without magic and only use magic if you actually have to. Is by a trans author as well, just FYI. I didn't even know that reading the book. It wasn't until after I finished reading it and read about the author at the back that I realized, like, oh, she is actually trans. I wasn't even sure if this was a trans person writing about a trans main character or not, because it's so hard to tell, because there definitely is a lot of vocabulary in here where our main character doesn't really know that she is a girl and not just a boy who wishes that she were a girl. And so there is a lot of vocabulary in here where she is referring to herself as a boy who was meant to be a girl because she just doesn't have the representation or the vocabulary. She doesn't have any other reference for what her gender identity consists of. So there is that. So just for anyone who might be blindsided by that, there is a lot of referring to her as a boy, even though she knows that she's not a boy. She just doesn't know what that means. So this was really good. I really liked it, and I would highly recommend it. The North Wind, this was my worst read of the month, easily. I was not a fan of this at all. I felt like this was the plot is just so cookie cutter. The characters and every plot point in here is so underdeveloped and so flat, and I was just hugely not a fan. I literally would have thought that this were written by AI had I known any better. I doubt that it actually was, but some parts of it certainly read like it was. So this is a fantasy romance about a girl who switches places with her sister to go and be sacrificed, but it turns out that it's not really a sacrifice. She just has to marry this god dude guy. And she is the very typical like my way or the highway, I'm so tough, I could I could do whatever kind of character, and just is like really badass without any reason to be exactly. And so there were so many plot points and so many character development things that were just not explained. We just don't have the backstory for them, and they just made no sense, and they came out of nowhere, and I just didn't like it at all. The Radiant King, this is about basically a group of siblings who have immortality, and they made a vow a long time ago that none of them ever become a ruler of anywhere or anything like that, because having like an immortal king is just not a good idea. And they all knew this, but one of them went on a power trip and did become a king. And so two of the other ones are out to stop him. All six of them do appear by the end of this book, but basically it's mainly about three of them. And I did really like this. I thought that there were some things that, like, for instance, there are three female main characters. One of them, like, literally wants to have sex with every single freaking person she meets. One of them has some serious trauma, and that's her entire character, basically. And one of them is actually really awesome and really badass, but she, like, falls in love with one of our other main characters in this really weird and wildly out of character way. So I just was not a fan of the way that the women in this book were treated, and I thought that that could have been done so much better, and I thought that this could have been more developed, but it is also the first book in a series. So this very well could just be the setup of how the rest of the story is going to go. But I liked it, but I'm not necessarily intrigued enough to read the rest of the series right off the bat. So, and then the last book that I have to talk about is The Vampires of El Norte. This is a kind of paranormal Western about this girl who is the kind of heiress to a rancho, and her father is trying to marry her off. Her parents are trying to marry her off to someone prestigious or something like that. But she's in love with her childhood best friend, who actually left for 9 years because he thought she died. But it turned out that she was revived. And so she doesn't know that she died and that was why he left. She thought he just left and never wrote to her for no reason. And so it's definitely really, it was really good. The vibe of this book was just incredible. I just thought there were some things about the character development that could have been better, but overall this was a really, really awesome read, and I really liked it. So anyway, those are the books that I read in the first half of December. Let me know if you've read any of these and have any thoughts on them, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!